Hello, year one again, and you join me now for our reading skills. Now, every single day we do our reading skills, and I'm sure you can tell people at home all about it. We usually look at a book and we look at it over a number of days and we look at it in real detail. So we're looking at all of the lovely key features, the key vocab, and then we're answering some really, really important questions. Now, on a Monday, we always do what is called a RIE. So we're going to be retrieving information. We're going to be looking at inference and inferring. And then we're going to be looking at explaining. Okay, we're looking at a lovely new book today. So I'm going to share my screen with you so you can see the book that we're going to be looking at. Okay, so hopefully you can see that on your screen now. And it says the date, Tuesday, the 5th of January, 2021. And it says our book this week is The Tiger Who Came to Tea by Judith Kerr. Now, Judith Kerr is the writer. Another word for a writer is the author. So that's the person that wrote the book. And you can see a lovely picture of the book there. There are a couple of quick questions here. Have you heard of this story before? Maybe you've read it, maybe you've seen it, maybe you've looked at the pictures before. Maybe you know what the story is about. Maybe you know some of the key characters. Okay, and there's another question there. It says make a prediction. And that's another one of our lovely reading skills that we look at. And we've also looked at that a lot in our science. Now, people in my class will be able to tell us that a prediction is a clever guess. Okay, so can you make a clever guess about what you think the story is going to be about? It's called The Tiger Who Came to Tea. What do you think is going to happen in the story? Maybe you could write some ideas down. Maybe you could draw a picture of what you think is going to happen. Maybe you could talk to the adult at home and tell them what you think is going to happen in our reading skills. If you need a bit of extra time, please remember you can always pause the video and rewind at any point. So let's start to delve a little bit deeper into this book. So it says here, before we start reading, let's take a look at some of the pictures. So we're looking at this picture here. We've got a couple of characters sitting together and it looks like they're having a drink together and there seems to be some lovely cakes and maybe some delicious snacks. Okay, we've got some inference questions here. Now what that means is we don't really know what's going on, but we're using the information to kind of make a clever guess again. We're using that information to decide what we think is happening. So what do you think is happening in this picture? Maybe share some of those ideas with the people at home. What do you think is happening in that picture? Another question, how do you think the characters feel? Looking at their expressions on their faces, looking at what they're doing. How would you feel if you were sat where that little girl is or you were sat where that adult is? How would you feel? Okay, now let's have a look at some of the writing, shall we? So we're going to start down here, okay, and we're going to do my turn, your turn. So this is called our echo reading. So remember, I read it and then you say it back to me. Okay, so my turn. Once there was a little girl called Sophie. Your turn. Now it's back to my turn. And she was having tea with her mummy in the kitchen. Your turn. Excellent reading. Now it's back to me. Suddenly there was a ring at the door. Your turn. Excellent. Now, I've underlined that key word there, suddenly. Now, I've underlined that because I think that's a really, really nice word. And we're going to look at that in our next slide. But there are some questions here, and this is our RIE. We've got our retrieve, we've got our infer, and we've got our explain. And we're going to just have a little look at this passage. We've only read the first page, but we're going to answer some questions on it. So, retrieve questions. Now, this is where you are lassoing. Remember, we have a little picture of a lasso at school that shows the retrieve. And you're going to lasso and find that information. So what is the little girl's name? So you might need to pause, you might need to read back and see if you can spot the little girl's name. Excellent work, team. The little girl's name is Sophie. Okay, what are they doing? So see, don't just look at the picture and guess, look at what the writing says. That's one of the really important things with reading skills. You have to look at what the writing says. Okay, so looking at what the writing says, it says what they're doing. It says that she is having tea with her mummy in the kitchen. That sounds like a lovely thing to do. Right, let's move on to our infer now. So we've kind of looked at this in our first slide. What do you think is happening? How do you think the characters are feeling? Okay, and you've shared with me your ideas before. Now let's have a look at the explain. Can you explain to someone and tell them at home what is happening in this picture and what is happening on this page? Okay, we're now going to move on and we're going to look at that highlighted word there, suddenly, for our part of our vocabulary today. So let's have a look at the key piece of vocabulary. So it's the word suddenly. Now we know that we've got lots of different groups of words. Now we've learned lots of adjectives. Those are our lovely describing words at school. Okay, like beautiful, lovely, exciting. Okay, they describe things. Okay, they describe things. Now, this is another type of word. This is an adverb. Okay. Now, adverb describes how something happens. Okay. So, the word suddenly, it means quickly and without warning. He stopped suddenly. It means it happens unexpectedly. Suddenly, she felt sharp pain in her side. It happens out of nowhere, on impulse, without premeditation. Those are tricky, long words. He decided to go to Chicago on the spur of the moment. He made up his mind suddenly. So sometimes it can mean making a snap decision. Now that is a really lovely word. Maybe you can go back and look at your English writing that you did this morning, and you could include the word suddenly in there. That would be really fantastic. And it says here, if you want to read on a bit more, you can find this book being read on YouTube. Like we do at school sometimes when we're doing our sequencing on a Friday, we look back at the whole story on YouTube. So if you get an adult, you can go onto YouTube using a search engine, nice and safely with an adult's permission. You can have a look for The Tiger Who Came to Tea by Judith Kerr, and you'll find somebody reading it, and you can have a little explore of it then. And we'll look a little bit more in depth at some more of the book tomorrow. Okay, that is our lovely reading skills lesson. I'm going to stop sharing. And we're now going to move on to our afternoon of lovely lessons, where you're going to look at your new topic, which you can kind of see the display behind me there. It's Jaws, Paws and Claws, which is very, very exciting. It's all about some incredible animals. Okay, and then I'm going to talk to you about science, and we're going to have a little look at our seasonal changes. I will catch up with you very, very soon.